They want it. They want it. So violence to them is good. That works. If everyone feels safe and you all live in a community where everybody cares or trusts each other to the extent that that's possible, you won't need all of the things that are coming. The AI bubble's the only industry in the country that's functioning.
Guys, thank you so much for joining me. John Soto, this is SotoCast. Tim Dillon, as he does every week, releases another. This one wasn't as funny as he admits it towards the end, but it was still very good. He is, he is part of the. He's a liberal, center liberal comedian. That's what I call him. I love his content. It's fantastic. He's very Joe Rogan-esque with his ideas, and I only say that from the law enforcement perspective. Like he has a very very skewed view on how that works and how that goes, and but he's going to get into a really interesting, super interesting point here. We're going to interject as we always do in the midst of it to try to break things down in a more granular sense. Take a listen to him. This is towards the end of his podcast. I know a lot of people don't get to it, so take a listen. We'll break it down.
And it's not functioning. It's largely fake, but it's one of the only things. It's got to deliver. This has got to deliver. You got a fucking massive investment. Our economy's hinging on this. The stock market's hinging on it. It has to deliver. Well, I would think a great way to usher in AI would be a lot of violence all over the place. That would be my guess. And in fact, if you didn't have that, well then, I don't know, maybe you wouldn't consent to all these new things that are going to start popping up in the next few years. All these companies are going to have to start selling all this technology to the states, to the local jurisdictions, to private companies, to private individuals.
I mean, I believe that whole cloth. I think it helps move it a lot faster. You're going to get to where you want to go a lot faster because, violence people are always willing to give up rights because of safety. That's, Patriot Act. You look down the line, the litany of rules and regulations that have been put into place under the guise of safety. And it's a very common thing, a very common thread throughout history. So it's no shock that would help promulgate this AI movement that we're all going to see. However, I think overall, technology is just going to, technology is going to do what technology does, and people are going to want things easier, faster, and you're not going to be able to stop that.
Other countries, well, if you have random outbreaks of violence, if you have high incidences of crime, if you have protests that are turning violent and spiraling out of control, if you have the federal government in conflict with the states, which is causing chaos on the streets, private individuals, private corporations, federal, state, local governments, all of these consumers are going to accept this technology, buy this technology. So what's happening right now is the wet dream of the national security state, of Palantir, of all of these different companies. They're not the only company, by the way. There's lots of different companies.
By the way, I think that there was just a video that came out with the Epstein dump where Epstein's talking about Palantir something like 20 years ago. Peter Thiel and Palantir. I'll have to pull up the audio. I just found it on X. I got to see who's pushing that around. It seems pretty legit, though, but just a wild coincidence that this guy had known about this company, that far back.
And this is their wet dream, because this will lead to surveillance. It will lead to AI government. It will lead to decisions being made by AI. Those ICE agents are untrained buffoons and killed a person. But you know who's not going to do that? The robot. The robot's going to know.
It's not about being untrained food who killed the person. That may be the case. I can make an argument where I disagree. It's not that the AI may make a better decision. It's that the AI doesn't have skin in the game. The AI would be putting forth a mechanical object that, if that thing gets blasted or run over by a car, it's nothing. It's just a piece of tech. So, again, like I said, he's very akin to Joe Rogan, and I see these guys, and I really would love to have a conversation with them when it comes to law enforcement, maybe the way things are done wrong, maybe the way things are done right. However, this is the law enforcement culture. This is how we train. This is how we do the things that we do and why we do them. And why, when it comes to a civilian looking at them, it looks horrible. I think that there's way too many people in prominent spaces that have no idea what life and death really means. And again, I never miss his show. Love his show. But that doesn't mean I you know, just like with anybody, you disagree with them. Not just disagree, but I can think that in this particular area, he's not that he's leading with his heart, his feelings, and he doesn't understand on the ground, the day-to-day, what you're dealing with when you're enforcing rules, regulations, and the law. That doesn't mean that I agree with what all the ICE agents did. I don't know. Most of us don't know. We're seeing clips. We're seeing still snapshots. We're seeing, you know, a 10-minute video is not context. What's context is what go back into what that officer saw last week. Did he see that person committing a crime last week and he's acting on it now? We have no idea what's going on until we sit down and do a play-by-play of why he did what he did, juxtaposed to the evidence that we have, then we can come to a conclusion.
The robot's not going to fear for its own safety. The robot's going to be programmed to de-escalate things. Watch. Coming. If you don't think those conversations are happening, you're insane. And if you have a buffoon group, a ragtag group of people you recruited 25 minutes ago that are ripping kids out of their houses and then shooting protesters in the street, it's a pretty good argument. In fact, maybe the best argument I've ever heard for something that 5 or 10 years ago we all would have completely rejected, which is a robotic or drone-based police. Okay? It's the best argument I've ever heard for that. If you were to make arguments, you'd say, well, this is what happens when people do it. Why don't we go somewhere else? Why don't we go somewhere else with this? Why don't we think about automation? These decisions will be made. Look at Waymos. 5 or 10 years, I'm a driverless car. What? I don't want to sit in that. People have accepted them. They're using them. And if I was going to make an argument to get rid of people and replace them, this would be a great argument. I would show this at my investor meeting. I would show it. If I was an investor in one of these AI companies, I would say, I want everyone to watch something, and it's going to be a little disturbing. But I think it's important because I think we've got a real chance here. I would play the shooting of Renee Good, and then I would play the second shooting in Minneapolis. It's the last name. What's his name, Alex? What?
Preddy.
I would play those two shootings, and then I would look at my board. I would say, this is the argument to automate policing. This is the argument to introduce mass surveillance, drone technology, biometric, facial recognition, whatever it is.
You know, as he's talking through this, and as I'm processing it again, I can almost see that if you take it even a step back further and you try to think that these AI guys, these tech guys, they almost, like he said, they almost could not have written it better, which kind of means, did they write it? Because if you look at how a lot of them are kind of like on Trump's side now, I mean, they just go with the wind. It is what it is. But they bring Trump into play. They create these scenarios, or at least they don't create this. They create the environment for the scenarios to take place, and then what happens? The shit that they know is going to happen. They get people on the left riled up through the algorithms of their creation, and then this stuff happens, and it as he's talking now, it just felt like kind of like a warmth over me where I almost understand. Like, it's almost like part of the play. Part of the play was kind of all this stuff. Obviously, I may be completely wrong right now. This is just something that just like kind of hit me. So bring Trump into power. try to enforce law as best you can, psyop the progressives into acting completely irrational and getting themselves killed in the counter, the revolution, whatever the hell you want to call it. And then when the progressives then again take over, rather than defund the police and get rid of the police, just say, we got to put it in the hands of the computers, of the robots, of the tech people. I mean, I'm going to put this out there, and who knows? Maybe 5 years from now, maybe they were right on the ball. Maybe they were right. Maybe they were right over the target with exactly what was going on. You let me know. I'm supposed to say this a lot earlier, but please hit the subscribe button. I just need subscriptions. All the new subscribers, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I'm just here kind of like talking and thinking this through right now on the fly. But yeah, let me know what you think. It sounds like, I don't know if Tim was exactly there to my point. He was, so I'm kind of with Tim at this section, but then I kind of go a little bit pre and say, well, maybe that was the idea all along. And, with the projections of when AGI and when artificial superintelligence will be, all of this stuff is happening so fast. So you kind of have to think long term, long game. What's going to happen? It's a pretty interesting idea.
We want to avoid this. We want to take human error out of this. And that's what I would say. And people would be nodding and sipping their coffee and going, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Because they're basically saying, all these people, they're getting them in rooms. They're getting them in rooms, and they're saying this to them. They're saying, when this all falls apart, and it will, that's what they're saying to them. They're going, when this all falls apart, and it will, you're going to want to live far away from this, and you're going to want to be protected, not by a bunch of buffoons. You're going to want to be protected by the types of things that we're working on. That's what they're telling these people. They go, yeah, some of you are going to, flee to Switzerland or whatever, and they'll close the borders, and, they'll, and all the bullshit you guys talked about open borders and diversity and all the shit you tweeted, you'll flee and you'll live behind gates, But some of you, you're going to stay in America. You'll stay in America. And when that happens, you want these guys protecting you? You want these people? Do you want these people, or do you want what we have? Because I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to want what we have. So this entire economic bet that we've all made on AI is going to be, in my mind, and the minds of other people, it's not only me, it's not, not the one person who said, this, but you can look at all of these different incidents and say to yourself, these will be used, and it'll happen when it happens, and it may already be happening, but when it starts happening out there, when they bring the police robot on the Today Show, they're going to use the example of Minnesota. They're going to use these examples, and they're going to say, what we want to avoid is human error. We want to avoid, and then they're going to just start remaking society. And the few rights you have left are completely gone. They'll be completely gone. They'll be completely gone. They're already evaporating. In Trump's Florida, right-wing Florida, freedom, freedom. What'd you say about the mayor? What'd you say about the mayor in his film?
If you guys saw the tweet, you had actual deputies going to a residence about somebody's X account or Facebook or whatever the hell it was. You can't have that in America. Can't have it. It's going to happen. Like Tim is saying. Again, Tim is incredibly smart, incredibly bright. He can see broad things and narrow them down and make them into bite-sized chunks that are very easy for people to consume. I think he's wrong about, he doesn't understand law enforcement. A lot of these guys, they've been living, they don't know what it's like, to deal with a car stop, a domestic violence call, stuff like that. And, that's why you need protocols in place. You need things in place to allow guys to do what they need to do in order to get the job done. I've said it many times before. I've said it previously. When the agent got out in the second shooting, not the good shooting, the Predit shooting. When he started pushing the women, he should have been pushing them in order to effect an arrest. What that arrest was for, I don't know. Whatever law they broke, that's for him to say. Whether it was something, if it's something that happened right then and there, I don't know what that law was. Again, because they were blocking the roadway, but that's a state and local law. He can't enforce that. So if there were laws that they broke prior and he saw them, what people don't understand is that I was watching Patrick Bet-David, and he had Cuomo on, and Cuomo was saying that, well, that it looks bad that Pettit broke the taillight, and then they were trying to arrest him. Maybe those guys were out there, they were pissed that he did it before, and they were just out there getting at him. That would look bad. I get it, he's a lawyer, but in this case, he's an absolute moron, because him breaking the taillight, if the officers were there, if officers were present in both scenarios, then they have a justifiable reason to effect an arrest. So, he was just saying something that just kind of like out of left field. But there's a lot of people that are talking that really have no idea what they're talking about. And that doesn't mean you can't have an opinion. It just means that when you're forming and fashioning your opinion, sit down with somebody that's been in the game. Sit down with somebody that's kind of like been in, either been in law enforcement or done something, just sit down with somebody that knows what the hell they're talking about. And you still might disagree, but at least you know where that side is coming from. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. 6283 Talk is me on the X. Let me hang on. Let me just take a look. See here. Yeah, I think Tim is pretty much good. Tim Dillon every Saturday. Great show. Like I said, don't always agree with him. Have a lot of disagreements with what he says, but I still love his show. And I think that's kind of what it's all about. It's all about that you can sit down, listen to somebody, you kind of cringe and you don't agree along the way, but he's still entertaining. I like him in terms of his show, and he does a fantastic job. He does it every Saturday. Take a look at him, and take a look at me. Make sure to please subscribe. That's all I need right now. Just hit that subscribe button. It costs you absolutely nothing. And thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next video, guys. Take care.